I'm John Ellis. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I fly the F7F Tigercat and the Grumman cat flight. That leads the flight, and we've been flying these airplanes in air shows since 1985. Tigercat is the F7F. It was originally designed in 1941 as a shipboard carrier-based fighter for the United States Navy. The particular airplane that I fly was built in 1945 and was on Guam at the time that the war ended. It was one of the few Tigercats that survived the smelters and spent some time as a firebomber in the northwestern United States. The Kalamazoo Aviation History Museum acquired the airplane in 1984, completed the restoration, and has been operating it in its original paint job and configuration since that time.
That's John Ellis. He's flying Cat 1. He's from Portage, Michigan. Twin R-2800s. The aircraft capable of speeds over 450 miles per hour.
The airplane is very narrow. It's 42 inches wide at the widest spot, and there's barely room for the shoulders of the pilot. And a very, very little drag on the front profile of the airplane, as you can see. The engine nacelles are actually larger in diameter than the fuselage of the aircraft.
I'm Tom Austin. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I'm standing in front of the plane that I fly here at the air show. It's the F6F Hellcat. This particular airplane was the premier fighter, carrier-borne fighter of the U.S. Navy during the Second World War. It was designed specifically to counter the Japanese Zero and was quite successful. It had a 19-to-1 kill ratio during its combat tour over there.
Beautiful aileron roll right at show center by Tom Austin.
One of the advantages that the American airplanes had over their counterparts in all of the enemy forces were the armament. This particular airplane has 6 50 caliber machine guns, and they were all aimed to converge at some point in front of the airplane, and generally speaking, it was done at the pilot's preference. And the airplane also had the capability of carrying bombs both under the fuselage and under the wings, and they were used both as air-to-air combat aircraft and air-to-ground attack aircraft. There were roughly 12,000 of them built. There are about 8 that still fly today, only 5 of them in the United States. It is a part of history. These airplanes fly, the sounds are there, the motion is there, the fire and brimstone that they represented during the Second World War is evident for everybody to see. This airplane is just marginally younger than I am, and so we kind of grew up together, and it's been a love affair since I was building models as a kid.
My name is John Amundsen, and I fly the Bearcat. It is an old airplane. It's about 50 years old, and it is number 9 off the production line. Now, only about 800 were built, so not too many exist anymore, so it is a fairly rare bird. It is a shipboard fighter, and although initially they used a catapult to launch it, they soon found out that with its high power, it didn't need that catapult. It could get off without it.
And now from the right, the powerful Bearcat, the aircraft which for many years held the record for both speed and rate of climb for a piston-powered aircraft.
As you can see, the Bearcat has an extremely long landing gear leg. The reason for that is it also has a very long propeller on it, and those landing gear are necessary for that propeller to clear the ground on takeoff and landing. With the tail up in the air, you just have 2 or 3 inches of clearance from the ground from that propeller. So it's very important that this airplane be landed pretty much in the attitude you see it sitting here.
Well, I'm Alan Wright, and I'm standing in front of the Wildcat, the FM2 Wildcat. The Wildcat is the fighter that the Navy entered World War II with. It served through the entire war. In fact, it's the only fighter produced from the beginning of World War II all the way to the end. It's a fabulous airplane with a great record in World War II.
Climbing on the 45-degree line, right up on over the top. Performing a loop right at show center. There's the FM2 Wildcat. There's that half-Cuban 8, 5/8 of a loop completed. He dives down on a 45-degree line.
Probably the thing that people comment about the most with a Wildcat is the landing gear, how close together the two main wheels are. It makes for difficult ground handling characteristics. The landing gear on the Wildcat is manually retracted. It takes 29 turns of a crank in the cockpit to get those wheels up and 29 turns to get them down. All the others, all you do is move a lever.
I'm Arthur Allen Walk from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm the pilot of the Grumman F9F Panther jet fighter in the cat flight. The Panther jet was built in 1949 as Grumman's answer to the Navy's need for a jet-powered, carrier-based fighter. The Panther jet was probably the most important ground attack airplane in Korea. This particular airplane has over 400 missions over North Korea and was flown in combat on a number of occasions during that time. Right now, this is the only flying Panther jet. It's operated by the Flying Warbirds Foundation of Philadelphia, and I am its only pilot. The first time I flew the Panther jet fighter, of course, there was no two-seat version of this airplane, so when you flew it for the first time, you literally flew it for the first time. So in order to prepare myself, I read the manuals very carefully and talked to Grumman's chief test pilot, a fellow by the name of Chuck Sewell, now deceased. And Chuck Sewell spent a lot of time on the telephone with me, and after he was through, he said, "Good luck." I got in the airplane and flew it away. They put two fixed fuel tanks on it, on each wing, carrying 120 gallons each. And you can see that these tanks are very, very large, and they create a lot of drag, which doesn't allow the airplane to go very fast. But without these tanks, this airplane wouldn't also go very far. Slung underneath the wings in what are called hard points, and you can see they're not very aerodynamic, are on this side 3 5-inch artillery rockets. And basically, this is an artillery shell that flies. It's got fins on the back to make it more aerodynamic, and a little rocket motor, and a warhead right here where the red begins. It has no guidance system. The pilot would use his gun sight inside the airplane, aim it at a target on the ground, and fire the rockets. And he can fire them in pairs, or he can fire them in salvos of 6 at a time, 4 at a time, or 2 at a time. And these were very effective rockets against ground targets. You'll see that there are 4 20-millimeter cannons in the nose of this airplane, and they are very effective weapons, as you can imagine. And they were fed with ammunition through chutes that came from ammunition boxes right in the nose wheel well down here. You can see them in the back. And the ammunition went through the trays, up a meandering way into the nose and into the various cannons. And interestingly, the center of gravity of this airplane was such that if the spent ammunition was not kept in the nose compartment, the airplane would be too tail heavy to get back on the carrier. So all of the ammunition, all the spent rounds were carried here in the nose compartment until landing. And then after the airplane landed, the entire nose slides forward on rails, and a bag would be hung from the nose right here underneath, and all the spent shells, 750 of them, would then fall. These brass shells would fall into the bag, and then of course the weight and balance of the airplane would stay proper because it was carrying home the spent shells. I'm sitting on an ejection seat. This ejection seat is disarmed, but in the old days, this was actually a seat that was fired by a 40-millimeter artillery shell. It wasn't a terribly effective seat. It wasn't a very safe seat. In fact, it was called the backbreaker because it would shoot you out of the cockpit with such force that it would fracture your spine. So while it saved many pilots, it injured many pilots as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, the flight of the Grumman Cats in their tribute to United States Navy and Marine Corps aviators and maintenance personnel.
Lord, guard and guide the men who fly through the great spaces of the sky. Be with
Ladies and gentlemen, the tribute to lost airmen flown by the Grumman Cats and the Missing Man Formation.